This video is an introduction to quadratic functions. Now, quadratic functions have a formula. It is ax squared plus bx plus c. And when you are dealing with a quadratic formula, you're going to create a U-shaped graph that's called a parabola. Now, every parabola has a vertex. The vertex is where the line changes direction. Now, your graph will either concave up or concave down. If your parabola is pointing up, then your vertex is the minimum point. If your parabola is pointing down, then your vertex is the maximum point or the highest point of the graph. If you take a parabola and put a dashed line through the center of the vertex, you have something called the axis of symmetry, and what that does is break your parabola in half, so the two sides, if you folded them together, they would be matching. Now I want to show you how to spot a quadratic function from a table of values. Before we do that, let's review a linear and exponential table of values and how you spot those. So first we'll talk about a linear table of values. Linear table of values is easy to spot because the y values go up by addition or they go down by subtraction. In this case, they're each going up by +4. So that's a linear situation. When you're dealing with exponential functions or equations, each y term goes up by multiplication. In this case, you're multiplying 2 each time to go from one y term to the next. And that is how you spot exponential, when you're all being multiplied by the same number. So that brings us to quadratic. When you're dealing with a quadratic table of values, you'll notice that the y values are going up by addition. However, each value is going up by a different number, unlike a linear situation. If this occurs, you're going to look for the second difference. That is where we'll subtract each term going backwards, and you'll notice that we're coming up with the same number. When this occurs, you have yourself a quadratic function. So quick recap: linear, adding, subtracting the y values; exponential, you are multiplying the y values; and quadratic, you're finding the second difference. Now, if you're lucky to have a graphing calculator and you're given a table of values, you could use that graphing calculator to actually find the quadratic equation. Start by pressing Stat. This screen should appear. It gives you a menu for editing, calculating, and testing. What you want to do is just press Enter to choose menu number 1, where it says Edit. That should bring you to this screen where it gives you the opportunity to list your x and y values. So in L1, you want to input all your x values like so. And then in column 2 or L2, you want to put all your y values like so. Next, you want to hit that Stat button again, and it'll bring you back to this menu or this screen, where this time you're actually going to press over to calculate and move the cursor down to number 5 where it says Quad Reg, and then press Enter. And that'll bring you to this screen. Now, the only thing you're going to do on this screen is move the cursor down to calculate and press Enter. When you do that, it brings you to the page where it gives you the equation. Only you have to fill in the A, the B, and the C with the numbers they give you underneath the equation. For example, this would be 1x squared because of the A Next, we have a -1 for the b. So I'm going to put -1x. And we have -6 for c, so I'll do -6. And that's our quadratic equation. Of course, you don't have to put the 1. You could leave it as x squared minus x minus 6. And you could keep it like that. It's equivalent. Last, what if you were given the quadratic equation and asked to find coordinates or a table of value? This one's a little easier. All you have to do is press y equals. Next, this screen should appear where you will input the quadratic equation. Next, you'll press second, then table, and that'll bring up all the coordinates you could ask for. All right, and there's your table of values. It gives you your x, it gives you your y. You can move the cursor up or down to get more coordinates if you really need them. Well, that does it here today. Just remember, the only time success comes before work is in the dictionary. This has been a Struggling Student Productions. If you like this video, please press like at the bottom and subscribe to our channel.